Hello, how's everybody doing? I hope everyone's having a great day. I went for a little surf a couple hours ago. I saw a stingray. The water is so crystal clear that I saw him just as if there was even no water between us. And it kind of freaked me out because I have gotten stung before. And I really kept my feet off the bottom of the ocean. I had to do all paddling. Sometimes I do it the easy way and just stand there and try to catch a wave, but not today. So, I'd like to talk to you about a subject today, and it's called sad Christianity. It's Christianity where people talk about how things aren't working and how hard things are, and depression and anxiety. I heard a story about a woman who goes on YouTube and posts videos, and they're mostly about her sense of lack of self-worth, her 20-year struggle with depression, and she's doing this speaking as a Christian. I mean, that's part of it. She says, a follower of Jesus, and she talks about her struggle with depression. Now, a lot of people in church have struggled with depression, and that's a pretty common thing that people fight with. Depression, a lot of people think it is sadness, but it's people who are depressed actually are not sad. People who are depressed are hopeless. So a parent who has 5 children could lose a child and be incredibly, incredibly sad, but still have hope and still get out of bed and still try to take care of the other 4 kids. A person who's depressed has lost hope. It's a very tough thing that people deal with. But one of the things that I've noticed is that people in the Christian world talk about depression, and not always in a way that they've been victorious over it. So I think it's helpful when people watch videos of other people talking about things they've struggled with, and they say, I'm not alone. Other people have struggled with similar issues. I do think that's helpful to people. But ultimately, Christianity is a religion of victory. The person who follows Jesus is ultimately victorious. And if you've watched some of my videos in the last few weeks, you know that I've been talking a lot about joy. How joy is really the centerpiece of the Christian religion. So I want to tell you about a workout plan called P90X. You're probably familiar with it. They have infomercials all the time. They started at least a decade ago. P90X just takes everyday people and just gets them shredded, just makes them look amazing. And I saw one of the testimonials, and it was this guy, his face looked like a soccer dad. He was very bald, but below the neck, he looked like Brad Pitt in one of those roles where he works with a trainer for 6 months. I mean, the guy just looked phenomenal. And from the neck up, just pretty average. So I looked at a bunch of the testimonials, and that happens a lot. They're taking a lot of average, everyday people, and the people that pour their heart into P90X just end up getting ripped. I mean, big muscles, veins, 6-pack abs, everything just looks incredible. So P90X works. But not everybody who buys P90X takes the advice of P90X. Not everybody who buys the program, something like $100, not everyone who spends the money works out for 90 days in a row like they advise and eats like they advise. In fact, probably 90% of the people that buy P90X just kind of give up after like a week because it's really hard, or they feel like, well, I'm never going to be like the people on the TV, or I can't keep up with them. For one reason or another, people just kind of fall by the wayside over the course of those 3 months that you're supposed to do the program because it's just too hard, or it just doesn't fit into your schedule, or you get discouraged. So at the end of the 90 days, you have about 10% or a handful of people left over that works the program. If you work P90X, if you do everything they tell you to, you're gonna look like you could be on the cover of a magazine. Or your doctor's going to say, what did you do? Your cholesterol dropped, amazingly. You have the cholesterol of a teenager. Or you're going to try on clothes, you're going to wear clothes that you haven't worn in a really long time. If you do the program, you're going to see earth-shattering results, and your life is going to be massively different. So when someone's still can't do a push-up after 90 days, or they haven't lost any weight, it's not a problem with P90X. P90X is fine. There's nothing at all wrong with P90X. In fact, I went on Amazon when I was thinking about buying it myself, and I read some of the reviews, and it's all 5-star. Every single one is 5-star. Nobody, not one single person, there was thousands of reviews. Every single person said, I used to be in the Marines, or I used to be a pro athlete, and I was never in this, I never looked like this in the mirror, I was never felt this great. Everyone just thinks that P90X is just fantastic. So, if you're struggling with not being able to do push-ups, it's not because P90X doesn't work, it's because you're not working the program enough. And there are a lot of Christians that I've met over my life who are kind of like, maybe they haven't bought into the whole program. This is the program. There's people who go through the motions and kind of like, it's a nice little social atmosphere. You go to church, they sing some songs, see your buddies and drink some coffee. You talk about people that didn't show up. It's a nice little social atmosphere. And some people use it like a club for their social life, but without really buying into the whole program. You can spend $100 and get P90X, but not really buy into the whole program. You can say, well, this week I'm just going to go for a jog instead of, jumping up and down in my living room like they tell me to. Or maybe you're not quite doing all the exercises that they tell you. Or maybe you're doing the exercises, but you're eating a lot of junk food. People that don't really buy in 100% to P90X, they don't see those amazo results. They don't have people they haven't seen in a while not recognize them. So when you're a Christian, you should see a massive, massive transformation. And I'm going to support that with a scripture reading from Psalm 40. I waited patiently for the Lord to help me, and he turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the pit of despair, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on solid ground and steadied me as I walked along. He has given me a new song to sing, a hymn of praise to our God. Watch this part. Many will see what he has done and be amazed. They will put their trust in the Lord. So in this paragraph, we're talking about someone who got lifted out of a pit of despair, which is depression, hopelessness, what we were talking about a few minutes ago. And when this person got lifted out of the pit of despair, they got their feet set on solid ground. So they have a new attitude. They weren't in despair, hopeless. Now their feet are on solid ground. They have a new song to sing, a hymn of praise to our God. Praise means you're talking about how amazing God is. If you praise someone, you're telling them how great they are. So this person used to live a life of despair, and now they have a new song that they're singing. It's a song of praise, talking how great God is. And the part that really clinches it for me is, many will see what he has done and be amazed. So if your friends aren't amazed by your P90X transformation, you haven't really properly executed it. I mean, it takes some people a year, but if you're doing what they're talking about, your friends are going to be amazed. Similarly, if you really work Christianity hard, if you work the program that Christianity puts forth, your friends will be amazed and they'll say, wait a second, is that the same person? They used to be like this and now they're totally different. Christianity is a transformational philosophy. You don't stay in Christianity for 20 years and you're depressed for 20 years. If you're doing it properly, people should be amazed by the transformation, just like P90X. But sometimes I hear in the Christian world, people talk about their long battle with depression, and you never get a victory at the end of that testimonial. It's just, yeah, I'm still depressed. I've been battling this for decades. And I think that does sometimes a disservice to the listener, even though it's helpful to know that other people struggle with similar stuff. And since I always talk about joy in my little mini sermons, here's 1 Peter 1:8. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit. 1 Peter 1. Now we live with great expectation, and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change and decay. And through your faith, God is protecting you by his power until you receive this salvation, which is ready to be revealed on the last day for all to see. So be truly glad. Here's a command of what mood to be in. Peter's writing to churches, and he's telling them, be glad. So be truly glad. There's wonderful joy ahead, even though you have to endure many trials for a little while. What kind of joy is there ahead? Wonderful joy. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. You love him, though you have never seen him. Though you do not see him now, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. So this is very heavy language. We're talking about wonderful joy, and the second part was you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. The King James says joy unspeakable. It's just so intense you can't even express yourself. You can't even explain it to someone else because it's so intense. So we're not talking about having a good day. We're talking about very, very powerful and intense positive feelings. And that's what Peter's telling to live in this mood. He's commanding people, and he sets forth what it's supposed to look like. You don't see him now, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. Very, very intense. Now, I was talking a little bit about people that do P90X, but they don't buy into the whole system, so they don't get the results. Well, Christianity is the same, because a lot of people in church, even though they might believe, first of all, a lot of people in church don't even believe that Jesus is a historical figure. They think it's just kind of like a myth or a legend or a fairy tale, and they just go to hang out because their friends are there. You have another group of people that do believe that Jesus is a historical figure, and they do buy into the New Testament. They believe that Jesus is real, but they don't believe a lot of the crazy stuff in the Old Testament, or they don't believe like the things that are amazing. For example, are there ever talking animals in the Bible? There are talking animals. The snake talked to Eve and tempted her. And also Balaam's donkey talked to Balaam. Balaam was trying to push his donkey through an area where there was an angel he couldn't see. And the donkey just turned around and just talked right to him and said, "Why are you giving me a hard time? I've never steered you wrong before." So a lot of people in those aisles, in the chairs at church, they don't really buy that there was a talking donkey or a talking snake. There's also a lot of accounts of giants, enormous people with beds that are 13 feet tall for a 13-foot man, and they have 6 fingers and 6 toes on each hand. A lot of people in church don't really believe that there were giants or that they had 6 fingers. So to me, the Bible is like a burrito, and you have to eat the whole burrito to get the results. Just like you have to do all of P90X to get those amazing results. If you're doing it halfway where you believe in Jesus, but you don't believe that a donkey spoke, or you don't believe in 6-fingered giants, you may struggle with not getting the full benefits. Like you may be a depressed Christian for 20 years. The unspeakable joy comes from the people who eat the whole burrito. If you're picking out a bean here or a little piece of parsley there or a piece of tomato, then you're picking and choosing like a person picks and chooses what exercises to do in P90X. You really have to take the whole thing, and you have to believe in six-fingered giants that are 13 feet tall to really get that incredible joy that Peter's telling people, that Peter's describing. Now, Peter has another letter, the second letter of Peter, and he addresses that in the last days, people are going to pick apart the Bible and say, they're going to start questioning it and saying it's not real. All right. This specifically is about the flood. In the final days, this is, almost 2,000 years ago, and he's saying in the final days, people are going to deny the flood. It never happened. This is what he says. Most importantly, I want to remind you that in the last days, scoffers will come scoffers will come mocking the truth and following their own desires. They will say, what happened to the promise that Jesus is coming again? From before the times of our ancestors, everything has remained the same since the world was first created. They deliberately forgot that God made the heavens by the word of his command, and he brought the earth out from the water and surrounded it with water. Then he used the water to destroy the ancient world with a mighty flood. He's saying people are going to deliberately forget about the flood. They're going to just say, no, that didn't happen. So, if you're a person who is not feeling unspeakable joy, you've been going to church or you're giving Christianity a shot, there's a little something to think about, that you have to do every exercise in P90X to get those amazing results. And you have to eat the whole burrito to get the amazing joy, the unspeakable joy that Peter speaks about. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week.